All right, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're looking at how to fundamentally upgrade your observability architecture using Grafana template variables. Look, if you're in site reliability or IT support, you already know the drill. As our systems get more complex, our monitoring tools absolutely have to keep pace, right? We're not just talking about making our dashboards look pretty here. We're talking about taking them from static, unmanageable walls of charts and transforming them into highly dynamic, interactive, single pane of glass tools. Tools that adapt to exactly what you need to see, right when you need to see it. Because let's face it, we are all battling the absolute monster that is dashboard sprawl. Think about the before scenario. Every single time you spin up a new service or deploy to a new environment, you're stuck manually duplicating and editing dozens of individual panels. It's just a massive drain on engineering time. But if we look at the after scenario using variable-driven panels, we completely defeat that monster. You get a single drop-down at the top of your screen that instantly updates every panel across the whole dashboard. You literally build it once, and it scales infinitely. So here's how we're breaking this down today. We'll start with the static dashboard problem, walk through the 4 essential variable types, look at variable chaining step by step, master our query syntax, and then wrap up with a real-world on-call incident scenario. Okay, section 1, the static dashboard problem. So, the shift from traditional server clusters to highly distributed microservices has caused an absolute explosion of data, what we call high cardinality. I mean, think about it. If you hardcode a server name like production web 01 into a query, what happens when autoscaling kicks in? Suddenly, it spins up 50 identical instances. Now, production web 01 is just one of 50. Trying to maintain separate dashboards for every single server, region, or environment is just a massive pain point. It causes absolute chaos when you're digging around for the right metric during an outage. We desperately need to replace those hard-coded identifiers with dynamic placeholders that automatically discover your infrastructure. Moving into section 2, the 4 essential variable types. This table maps out our dynamic observability toolkit. First up, we've got the query variable. You can think of this as the heavyweight champion. It runs a real-time query against your backend, like Prometheus or InfluxDB, to automatically fetch a list of all your active pods or hostnames. Really powerful stuff. Next is the custom variable, which is perfect for administrative stability. You just manually defined a comma-separated list of values that don't really change much, like your prod, staging, and dev environments. Then there's the constant variable. This one is pretty unique because it's completely hidden from the UI. It's perfect for storing fixed values, like a base API URL or a cluster-wide threshold, making sure everything stays absolutely consistent across all your panels. And finally, the interval variable. This hands over temporal precision to your users. They can manually select time spans, say 1 minute, 5 minutes, or an hour, to dynamically adjust the granularity of rate functions and visualizations. All right, section 3, step-by-step variable chaining. Variable chaining is how we build a hierarchy, basically creating cascading filters. It's super straightforward. You navigate into your dashboard settings, open the variables editor, and start building that parent-child relationship. So first, you create your parent, a custom variable named environment with options like prod and staging. Then you add your child, a query variable named service. Now, the real magic here happens when we link them together, so the options in that service dropdown directly depend on whatever the user selects in the environment dropdown. And here's the exact PromQL syntax that makes that connection happen using the label undervalues function. Notice how we inject the parent variable right into the query? We literally just write env equals, quote, $environment, quote. Because we inject that variable directly, when a user switches the environment from staging to prod, Grafana automatically refreshes the dependent service variable. It filters out all the noise and only presents the services that actually exist within that specific production environment. It's incredibly elegant, and honestly, it just keeps your dropdowns perfectly clean. Which brings us to section 4, mastering query syntax. So, variable interpolation is simply the mechanism where Grafana takes the placeholder you wrote and seamlessly swaps it out for the user-selected value. You generally have 2 choices here. You can use the shorthand, which is just a $sign followed by the variable name, like $varname. That's great for simple standalone paths. But if you're interpolating a variable right in the middle of a continuous string or expression, the explicit syntax with the curly brackets is absolutely mandatory. For example, if your metric is named metrics.service_total, you have to write it as metrics.service_total, so Grafana knows exactly where the variable name ends. Otherwise, things are going to break.
Now, here is where even experienced engineers stumble. If you configure a variable to allow users to select multiple values at once, which, by the way, is a fantastic feature, Grafana joins those values together, usually with a pipe character acting as a regex OR. Well, if you're using Prometheus or Loki and you accidentally use the standard equal sign in your query, it's going to look for a literal string with pipes in it, and boom, you hit a wildly frustrating no data error. To fix this, you absolutely must use the regex matching operator, that equal sign followed by a tilde. This tells your backend, hey, treat this multi-value selection as a regular expression. So always watch your operators.
And speaking of pitfalls, there is a massive trap here. Never, ever use template variables in your alert rules. It's just a fundamental design constraint. Here's why. Alerts evaluate autonomously on the Grafana backend on a fixed schedule, right? But template variables rely on the dashboard context. They resolve dynamically in the user's browser based on what they've clicked. Because that backend alerting engine has literally no browser context, it can't resolve your instance of threshold variables. If you try it, you'll just get the dreaded template variables not supported error. And nobody wants broken alerts at 3 a.m. For alerts, you really must stick to native label selectors instead.
Okay, Section 5, the on-call incident scenario.
Let's put all this into a real-world perspective. Imagine it's 2 a.m. You're the on-call engineer. Your pager starts screaming, and you're staring down a severe CPU spike in the production environment. Every single second counts here. If you've got a static dashboard set up, you're probably scrambling, frantically opening 5 different browser tabs, desperately trying to figure out which specific dashboard even corresponds to the failing cluster.
But because you took the time to build a dynamic dashboard using template variables and chaining, it takes exactly 1 click. You open your primary service dashboard, you go straight to the environment drop-down at the top, switch it from staging to prod, and instantly, literally in milliseconds, every single panel on that dashboard reconfigures itself. Your chain variables automatically filter to show only the production services, and you immediately isolate the anomalous pod causing the CPU spike. You have just shaved critical minutes off your mean time to resolution.
Variables aren't just some nice UI convenience. They are an absolutely fundamental component of scalable observability. So I'll leave you with this final thought and a bit of a challenge. Take a hard look at your current setup. How many static, duplicate dashboards can you delete today by replacing them with just one beautifully templated dashboard? If you want to get your hands dirty and experiment with these exact chaining and interpolation techniques right now with zero installation required, head over to play.grafana.org. Go start consolidating your observability suite and take control of your data. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy dashboarding.